So greetings. Today I want to speak about loss and death. Basically, I titled this "Supermarket Flowers" based upon Ed Sheeran's song because I think it's really awesome, and it has a really detrimental importance to me. That song about what he spoke about. So I just want to share this with you guys today about the passing of my mum and also how to deal with grief and death. I'll see you after the intro. So welcome back. My name's Jay. I'm from Karnak Holistics, but we learn together and we grow together in the sight of God. In order to get housekeeping out of the way, just like to ask if you can like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget about the notification button or bell, what we call it, to let you know when I do new videos which are coming up shortly. It also helps the channel grow. So today, it may sound a bit morbid, what I'm talking about, but it's not. Because it's a massive part of life. It's a massive part of our existence on this planet. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it kind of real, and I'm just going to go with intuition, than opposed to planning it and writing down what I want to speak about. But what I want to kick off with is talk about the passing of my mum when I was 19, which was some years ago, and because I've never really spoken about it to many people, but I just wanted to kind of like, especially obviously people who don't really know me, but I wanted to kind of speak about that aspect of it because I felt around me a lot lately, really, really a lot. She was one. I know everyone said their mum's incredible. My mum was really amazing. She inspired me 110% through when I was doing my music when I was younger, when I was in my band, to being an artist, to just following my dreams and not giving up. She's what made me who I am today, and she also inspired me to love and be honest with people who you love and open as much as possible. And it hurts sometimes when you are, and it's tarnished. My mum has always given 110% to her family. She came over from the Caribbean. She's from Dominica. She came over in her late 50s. My dad came first, 6 months later. 6 months earlier, my mum came 6 months after. And what's this got to do with spirituality? It has a massive thing to do with spirituality, because it's all about me, and obviously other people have mothers as well, whether you part their past, whether they haven't. But when she came here, she raised 5 children on her own in a way because my dad was at work. But when I was younger, her presence was such a magnitude. I remember I couldn't sleep at night most of the nights. I never slept, and whether I had insomnia, I don't really know. But she was always sitting on. I remember sitting on that rickety chair that we had. It was like made of I think every black family had it, to be fair. It was like a coloured seat and a back seat, and it was white plastic for the back and for the legs. I think anyone who's from the Caribbean or even with Indian people would know what I'm talking about when I'm saying if you go back to the 70s. So I'll go back to the 70s. I'm older than I am. Going back to the 80s, I should say. So basically, when I was 19, my mum. Actually, we go back a bit further than that. When I was probably about 8, I remember waking up in the middle of the night. I had a tendency to pick up on fear and death when I was younger, and I'd wake up, and I woke up middle of the night. My dad was on the phone to somebody, yelling and shouting down the phone at someone. I went into my mum's room. My mum's on the bed having a heart attack, and I was only 8. And then I just I don't remember much after that. I just kind of froze, but I knew that this was serious because obviously the way my dad was, and the way my mum was, and it was like, was I going to lose her that night, and was I going to just be there alone? And that's my fear sometimes, of when you're on your own and when you try to create something and create something with people, that you walk a same path together and that you share this challenging life in a way, and blissful life as well, together, as my parents did, you know. And then so they took her into hospital. She recovered. She came back about a month later or so. I can't remember how long it was, but she lost so much weight. But she looked so beautiful when she came back home. She's beautiful anyway, but she was so slim and so gorgeous. She was just like amazing. I didn't even recognize her. I remember going into the front room, and there goes a surprise in the front room for you. So I went into the front room, and she came from behind the door, and I just sobbed like a baby. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I missed her so much. And in the meantime, we had to suffer my dad trying to cook English food, which was beef burgers and beans majority of the time. And he always burnt it. It's always like cardboard not cardboard, like leather on the bottom. My brother would understand what I'm saying, because and then him having to get to work in our next door neighbour taking us to school. So let me push forward a couple of years. I was 19 now. I just had my first son, Jordan. He was just turning 1, and that year he was turning 1, my mum collapsed, rushed into hospital. I saw her I took him to see my mum at home, and my brother was there, and she was in the toilet. She was really ill. She wasn't all together. So I was again called the doctor. Our doctor came, and he took so long. And anyway, they rushed me into hospital. I went with her, and we was in the hospital for ages, trying to be seen. And I've never felt so alone. I never felt so abandoned. And I feel most of my life I've been that way. I felt that people just constantly come into my life, take what they need to take, and then abandon me, and don't even try. And that really does fuck me out. That really does piss me off to a degree, because I give everything I do. I give everything to anybody, whether it's friends or relationships. I give everything. And there are people out there that just don't give a fuck about you, that just treat you like shit, and there are people that just will walk all over you and try and make you look like a right prick, and no matter how much you love your friends, family, partner, whatever, there are still bad people in the world. There are bad people in the world. But going back to my mum, it was like losing her. When I lost her, she collapsed, went into hospital, and I remember sitting in the hospital room with her, and she was just complaining about her head because she had a stroke, and it was just tragic. I was only 19. I never ever went into hospital before ever, apart from getting my tooth done. So I was just left there to deal with this. My dad was somewhere, but I was just left there to deal with this. No other person, no other fucker there to help me whatsoever, and yes, it does piss me off. And I don't give a fuck who I piss off. It does piss me off, and then they turn around complaining that I've got an attitude. No, I've learned to deal with this, but I've not forgiven for the fact is that I was abandoned to deal with a senior member of my family that I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, when there was another member of the family, and I was just left there to deal with this shit. Anyway, long story short, she they operated on her head, and I went home to do meditation and prayers and so on to keep her safe, because I was useless at the hospital, because I was just useless at the hospital because they were just hanging around doing nothing, and I think my family would just piss me off. So I just went home to my partner then, and she was like, are you okay? And I said, well, not really, no. And it was like we spoke about it for ages, and then she goes, do what you need to do. So I did what I needed to do, and I went done my meditation, and I saw her appear before me at first in spirit, and then she just disappeared. So then I thought I was just dreaming because I thought I was tired because it was really late. Then I fell asleep, and then I called. I think I called the hospital, asked how it went, and they said that it went well. She's going to make a good recovery. They had to drain the fluid off her brain. And then I remember getting to bed and I fallen asleep. And then I remember, again, the same way as I said, I woke up when she was having a stroke, or heart attack, I should say. And when I was younger, the same way I woke up and I saw her standing at my son's crib. Because again, it was one, he was in his crib. And she was just peering in there, and she had this. She weren't all in white; it looked cream, to be fair. But all around it was like stars. Best way I can explain it, if you don't seen Stardust, it was similar to that. And she stood there with these, and then I remember looking at her, and even though the strange thing was, is that she had a handbag, which I don't know why, because she always went everywhere with a handbag. And she's just peering in his cot, and then she looked up and she saw me, and then we just locked eyes for ages. It seemed like ages anyway, it's probably only for a couple of seconds. And then I blinked and she was gone. But then I had a little poof noise, and it was just like that actually. And I just saw these little stars just dropping on the floor. And then tried to look down and I couldn't see anything. And I honestly believe that's when my mind's eye opened. I think she had to suffer and sacrifice herself in a way for my mind's eye to be open, because I wasn't really seeing. I was more of a healer then, and then ever since then is when my mind's eye beginning to start opening. It all made sense today. This is a good almost 30 years later, because my son was 1 and my son's almost 30. He's just cussing me when I say he's almost 30. Then later on, when she recovered, she did recover. We went to see her at the hospital, but she wasn't the same person. She couldn't really speak properly. She was slurring words and so on. But I remember being holding her legs and then doing some prayers and healing her legs. And she can walk. She was due to go to see if they can start working on her legs to give her physio and stuff. But they said she probably won't be able to get physio, but may not walk again. So no, long story short, my dad came in like some kind of madman and said, you never guess what? Your mum's gone missing. And I go, what do you mean mum's gone missing? She's gone missing. She was only sat up in the bed, or they had to lift her to put her in a chair. They found her, they couldn't find her, went searching everywhere. They found her, someone said they see her walking towards the toilet. And someone said to her, where are you going? She said, I'm going to the toilet. And then they went in there and they found her in the toilet, sitting on the toilet, going to the toilet. And they were like, oh my gosh, she walked almost 2 foot, probably longer than that, to get to the hospital, if you're in the hospital, to go to the loo. Remember, she can walk. So, with the events of that, they decided to give her physio, which was going really well. This was just after I done a healing, not me, they did, and I was a vessel to send a healing through her to make her legs work. And I remember trying to kick my hands off, but they was going, hold on. My dad's going, what are you doing to her? And I'm going, nothing. And I was just holding on to her legs. My brother can see what I'm doing, and he's like going, what are you doing? And I'm like, I've got to do this type of thing. And then I wasn't known for doing healing and stuff because it was very undercover, coming from a Catholic family. And then and then I think about 2 months later she passed away. They found her dead in a chair. But when you lose somebody who is so important like that, I don't know if it doesn't get replaced. That's not what I want to say. It doesn't get replaced, and they say you go through the grief, 5 stages of grief. But what you don't always, some of them you do. But what it does do, it opens up or awakens certain parts of you, what it did to me, to understand what is death, what is life, what is the reason that we live, we die, what is this all about, And this is what I wrestled with for a good 10 years, ages, for years and years and years. I wrestled with it. Even when my dad died 5 years later, I still was wrestling. Not with, I don't believe in death, or we all know it happens, but I wrestled with for the fact is that why have people so close to you and then them die, and then you have to go through this suffering? And there's another form of death. There's deaths of parting of relationships or family members, because when you're in a relationship and then you break up from them and they have family, obviously you break away, the dynamics is not the same anymore because you're not seen the same. So there is another form of death there, or ending, which you can't replicate or you can't change, you can't alter. It's just a part of it. And I think most families who have two-parent families, or whose husbands and wife are split and then have another family there, it's the same type of thing. Or if a family member's been together, then they've tried to kind of reattach themselves to it, or another person's trying to come in and then becoming quite close, and then they don't feel that connection after, because they build a new kind of like a new foam around that family. So two-parent family split, somebody else comes in, builds a foam around it, and then that doesn't work. Now that doesn't work, and then it's like it's just not the same. It doesn't feel the same. That is painful. That is really painful. That is something hard to try and deal with. And there's also the pain of losing your partner, whether you broke up amicably or not amicably. There is a form of death there. Whether you cheated on them or not, or whether you done something good with them, or it just come unnatural, there is still a form of death. I remember with my first major relationship, I was with her for 19 years. That's a kid's mum. Though it was amicable, there was still this massive void there. My life wasn't the same. My relationship, my kids wasn't the same. My relationship with her wasn't the same, and it was still, you had to work more to make it work, if that makes sense. And how I did with my kids anyway. But then that kind of causes another state of who you are, because we as human beings, and spiritual human beings as well, we try to replicate what we had from the beginning, and that's where a failures happen, I believe, because we can't, because that was then, this is now. So this is when I say to people, be careful when you decide to break up with somebody and you're not sure. You need to be 100% sure, because the dynamics is not the same when you get back together. It is, and I've seen that in past relationships with me. And it is tough. It is tough. And I think when talking to a friend of mine the other day about wanting to end relationships or friendships and stuff, they were going, oh well, they'll be better off. And I'm like, well, how do you class better off? You're just assuming that this other person's going to be better off because you're judging based upon your own actions. So because you can't determine that somebody else can be better off because you feel it's not working, and if you decide to walk away and you think this other person is going to be better off because the way you are, you're just deluded. I have to honestly say, you're just deluded, because that person obviously is used to this dynamic already. Whether it's positive or negative, the dynamics there, because we all build relationships over a period of time. I know some people may be disagreeing with me and say, like, no, well, they should go if they have to go. I'm not saying that you should stay because staying with the person is the best way, no matter how bad it is. That's not what I'm saying. So if that's what you're thinking, you got it wrong. And I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if someone's not 100% sure that it's not going to work, and you've exercised every form of healing, from counselling to talking to, it's work through it. Don't just give up, honestly, because you are really not just fucking up your life. If you realise that you made a mistake, you're fucking up a lot of people. That is going to be there's a like you drop the stone into the water, you get a ripple effect. There's a ripple effect, and it does have an effect down the line, and people get hurt. People really get hurt, and I've seen this with people I can't. I've had so much things said about me, and it doesn't bother me because I know it's not true. But it hurts to know that this could be even thought of. And for me, seeing being out of a space in some ways, you get to see how the dynamics is, and I've seen how the dynamics is over a period of time, from my relationship to my relationship with her family to my family, and I've seen how the dynamic is, and I see how it is. Where it's going to go, I don't know, and I'm not even going to question God on that because I leave that in God's hands. But you know, like Ed Sheeran says, if a heart is broken, then surely it was loved, and that's so true. It's amazing, and that really got to me. That really hit me. And I remember talking to one of my stepdaughters and saying, you know, when you, and I said about that what Ed Sheeran said, and I said that if you're hurting, then you must have been loved, or you must be still loved or in love, because I know people that are not being in love or don't love somebody, and they've not walked around, I'm not talking about relationships, friendships as well, and they don't feel nothing whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying about my perception of what they should be acting like or being like. I'm talking about how they just are simply saying, he would say to me, well, it's one of their things. Imagine a player, right, meets a girl, dates her for 6 months to a year, 2 years, whatever. In the meantime, he's fucking around with other girls, whatever. And then dumps her because she falls in love with him because she's getting too close. Her life is like, is in tatters. You know, is in tatters. He don't give a shit. He's still going off doing his shit, but she's not showing how bad she's being affected, only with her friends. But he's like, well, she don't give a shit. She's not doing blah blah blah. And but she won't give him the benefit, the power to know it's affected. You know that it's affected him severely. And the best way, and I use what the Queen says. Let me try and remember it now. I remember it. Never complain, never explain. Never complain, never explain. Let me say that again. Never complain, never explain. And that's true. And you go off and you start going, okay, is that what you want? Off you trot. You know, I do that with friends. I do that with clients. You know, I really do. I can't even empathize. I can't even express, I should say, how much I give. You know, and maybe it's my fault to a degree, giving too much in a way that there's no room for others to give. And I'm talking about friends, relationships, family, and all this, and they assume that you're going to do stuff, you know, and then you get upset because they don't recognize that you're hurting. And that was me growing up, you know, because I gave everything to my family, and when they don't recognize like your talent or what you're working on, I used to get really, really pissed off. And I remember one time I had an art exhibition at college, and I told my mum, I said, look mum, there's an art exhibition going on at college, can you come along, blah blah blah. My mate's mum's going to be there, you know her, so you can chat to her. She's like, yeah, I'll be there. So anyway, you can see where this is going, don't you? My mum would turn up to anything. If you was to clean the toilet, and she knew you were gonna do it, she would be there at the school. She would be there for everything, right? She was like this superhuman brain. So I don't know what the hell happened to her. So anyway, as I'm laughing but I wasn't laughing then. The exhibition come, it was all up. It was my greatest works I've done, and people coming and buying stuff, and I've done really well. My mate's mum turned up, parents turned up, family turned up, friends turned up. Nothing. She didn't even show. Not even a phone call, you know. I was pissed. I got home and she was in the front room talking to my sister. Bang went the door. And then I walked in there and it goes, like was like, well, where were you? And I never ever say that to my mum, because I know my mum would just go and give me a good hiding. And I was like, well, where were you? And then she was like, what are you talking about? And then she was like, oh shit. And she goes, what? And she goes, it was his exhibition today, and I'd forgot. And my sister's like, I sent you an exhibition. I go, you know, fuck you. And I walked off and I slammed the bedroom door. And my mum was gutted. She was gutted. And I was only, I think I was 16, 17. And even up to the age of 18, she was still remembering. And when she spoke about it, she had this sorrow look on her face, like she let me down. And even though I said, like, look, it's alright, and I'm just bringing this up now because this is the kind of person she was, and that's the type of person I am. It's not that you intentionally forget, it's that you do forget, because shit happens and stuff happens and you make mistakes, you know. And I get that. I get it with my kids. I make the monumental fuck ups to my children. I think I'm doing right, and then, you know, if everyone done a lot, I think I could have done it differently. And sometimes a majority of the time I get it right, but my kids say I'm an awesome father, you know. They can, and their friends say the same. I'm not just saying that because they may be saying something totally different, but no, they that's what they say to me. And that's echoed with my son having my first grandson, black grandson, and he's replicating his version of what he knows to be a father, and a lot of it what he see probably from what I should have done for me to avoid, because of me I tried to do stuff my dad didn't do, and I did a lot of what my dad did do and what my mum did do, so I amalgamated together and created my own self, and then try to not force my children to be a certain way. But I see him like really shining and adoring that kid. It's just amazing, and Jason's just coming on amazingly. He's really developing, but by and largely, as a spiritual, though I'm talking a lot about me, which I make references. I don't really go into in-depth stuff now, but I want to use, for some reason, Spirit really wanted me to talk about this. They really wanted me to be really exposed. It's best, exposed. They said don't joke, just exposed about it, because I think there's somebody or people, plural, that may get it, you know, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay that you get things wrong. It's okay you get it right, you know, but just make sure you have a genuine heart when you if you do get it wrong, make sure you have a genuine heart and you really do mean it, because somebody, obviously, whether they're expecting you to be there or not be there, just make sure that you do what you feel is right for yourself, for them. No, I think that's it for me. I just asked, is there anything else I should say? They were like, no, that's it. So I just wanted to end it on that. And if you've got any comments, if you had a bereavement in the family, if you are going through anything for my breakup or any kind of letting go or detachment, please share, and please be civil to each other, because obviously this is real life, and Karnak is about helping and sharing and growing. Like, we learn together and we grow together, you know, in the sight of God. So let's keep it that way. And I thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you guys being here as well. But yeah, pass it on, because the quicker and the better the channel grows, the more I can put more content out and talk about, because people will be saying, can you do this, can you do that? So anyway, I'll speak to you soon. Stay blessed and stay safe, and namaste.